Hi, I'm Jennifer Whitson, Senior Public Information Officer with the Office of Communications for the New York State DMV. And this is the Commissioner's Corner, where you'll hear about all things DMV. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us today. Last episode, we discussed winter driving, and this time we're ready to talk about the holiday season. We're going to discuss holiday traditions that the DMV and the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee implement annually to help keep New Yorkers safe. But before we get into that, can you tell us some of the holiday traditions in your home?
I can, but let me first go to the governor. Most people know that she's the first woman governor of the state of New York. Some might know that she's the second governor from Buffalo. But the information that I like to give, Jennifer, is that she's the only governor in New York State history who actually has run a DMV. And so that means many of the things that we're talking about today, she understands very well. But she's also working on some other things other than just DMV. She's working on affordability. She's working on mental health for everybody. She's working on protecting kids on social media and affordability for all New Yorkers. So I just want to make sure that the listeners know that we appreciate all of the efforts the governor is doing. So back to the holiday traditions. Yeah. So I like talking about this because, my last name is Schroeder, which is German. So I'm 25% German. I'm also 25% Irish, but I'm 50% Siciliano. Io il nonno eri da Montalbano Eliconi, Sicilia. Capisce?
Capisce.
Okay, so we have this great tradition that continues. On Christmas Eve, we have what is called, right?
Yes, the Feast of Seven Fishes.
The Feast of Seven Fishes. It's widely known. It originates either from the seven sacraments of the church or it took God 7 days to create the universe. But in any event, it's a tradition that continues in my family. And what the irony of it is that one of the fishes is bacala. Bacala is a codfish. It has to be soaked like 26 to 27, 37 hours. My wife, who's first generation Irish, she's in charge of bacala, and she's been doing a great job. Since my mother and my grandmothers are deceased, somebody's got to do it, right? And so everybody pitches in. So I cannot wait for Christmas Eve. It's a great tradition, and there's so many of us. And the kids, even the kids who don't really like fish, they eat it because they know it's tradition.
That's
and
right.
so it's a great opportunity for our family.
I love it. Around here, the holidays are a time, unfortunately there's an uptick in impaired driving. Can you discuss some of the things that we do around here to protect people on the roadways?
Yeah, especially, during this month of the holidays. We work, the Governor's Traffic and Safety Committee, we're working with NHTSA, we're working with law enforcement agencies across New York State, and we're doing things on purpose during the month of December. And so from mid-December through New Year's and now Super Bowl, there are so many different things happening across New York State that are going to make people understand public safety is really important. And between DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Transportation, Thruway Authority, the Governor's Traffic and Safety Committee, we're coming up with all sorts of things to put in people's mind. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Yes.
Buzz driving is drunk driving. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high and get a DUI. So these are things that are important. People listen. People put things in their mind. And so we want to make sure they understand it, especially during this period of time of the holiday season where it's joyful and you want to go visit family. You just have to remember there's alternatives to drinking and driving. We have apps. We have all sorts of information, right? So that you can protect yourself and help your family.
Now, Commissioner, a lot of folks, they think that these enforcement periods are a money grab. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, it's really not. It's important to note we have a responsibility. DMV, GTSC, law enforcement, we have a responsibility. We understand there's a lot of traveling going on during Thanksgiving, Christmas, Super Bowl Sunday, 4th of July.
Right.
We understand that. We have a responsibility to make sure people know. Now listen, there's millions and millions and millions of people in this state. Most New Yorkers are adhering to our message.
That's right.
Last year, the law enforcement community issued over 105,000 tickets. 105,000. But there's millions of people in this state. So that means New Yorkers are listening to us. That's an important message.
On top of these initiatives, there's other things that we've been doing, like the Ghost Plate Enforcement Task Force. We've got new DMV regulations to stiffen penalties for persistent dangerous drivers. Can you share more about these initiatives?
Yeah, so this really stems from the governor. The governor in 2023, the State of the State address, she made it clear that she wants dangerous, high-risk drivers off the road. And so she encouraged DMV, but she didn't have to encourage me too much because I agree with her.
Yeah,
and so what we did is we made sure that we strengthened the regulations. And that's exactly what we're doing. Back to the ghost plates. It was the governor. The governor initiated a task force along with the mayor of New York City. This was mostly a New York City, metropolitan New York initiative because of all of the tolling bridges and things. People are faking their plate. And so the governor wanted to create a task force, of which she did, along with the mayor. And they did a tremendous job. And what that did is it made sure that people understood, and also the bad guys, that you're being watched now. And so you better be careful because we're not going to allow it. And it's just not so much about not paying a toll, which is important to pay a toll because everybody else has to pay a toll.
Right.
So you should be able to as well. But there are some nefarious people who are doing things as well, and they don't want anybody to see their plate, especially law enforcement. So these things are very, very important.
Now, there's been a crackdown. Can you talk about more of like with that crackdown and what some of the results have been from that?
Yeah, so on the ghost plates in particular, there's a 90-day suspension, so that if you are convicted, 3 times within a 5-year period, the fines are going to be greater. And so this is all under the umbrella of keeping dangerous drivers off the road. And so this is the reason why the governor announced this, and this is the reason why DMV has worked so hard with law enforcement across the state to make sure that these regulations work.
Right. And I know that there's been about 2,100 vehicle seizures, also collected over $19 million. So this has definitely been a huge benefit that New Yorkers are able to see. Now, the stiffened penalties against persistently dangerous drivers, can you talk about more about those penalties?
Yeah, so there are things that are really concerning, to the governor, to the legislature, to DMV. For example, and it's sometimes when something bad happens, you have a responsibility to do something about it. And what comes to mind is Angelica's Law. And so Angelica's Law, it's a little 14-year-old girl, Angelica Nappy. And she at 14 years old, she was killed by an unlicensed driver. And so after the family mourns the loss of their loved one, what's the first thing that they want to do? They want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. And so the Nappy family and others got together with legislators and they wrote a law. I was with the governor when she signed it into law in Garden City at our DMV office in Garden City. But this is what I'm talking about. This is what's so important, is that when you have a responsibility, this governor takes it seriously, the legislature she's working with takes it seriously. You have a responsibility for public safety. And when you can do better, you need to do better. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. And the initiative is from the governor. Keep dangerous people, high-risk people off the roads.
Now, these stiffened penalties and enforcement periods, it is always our hope that they continue to make a difference. and they're about changing habits ultimately, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, there's no question about it. I think what happens, and this is one of the reasons why the Governor's Traffic and Safety Committee, we spend time across the state at high schools. And we do events because what we want to do is we want to put this in young people's mind, what the responsibility is, especially when they're outside the classroom and now they're on a motorway and they're driving a vehicle. It's important for them to know there are rules and regulations.
Right.
And so we're going to continue to communicate. The Commissioner's Corner is a great opportunity for me to talk to New Yorkers about the things that really matter.
Thank you for joining us today, Commissioner, and hopefully all of this information will keep us safe during the holiday season and year-round. This wraps up this episode of the DMV's Commissioner's Corner. We hope you join us next time as we drive you forward.